I became profitable in about 8 or 9 months of trading. I've been up 20,000 in a single trade. Blew about 10 to 12 200K accounts. I was up on an account with one of one around 43,000. If people are like, oh, but I want to win, that's where I tell my students just.
All right, man. So we got Simon here. He has about 30K in payouts. What was the exact number? It's like 27,000, something like that.
I'm pending now, so I'm around like 35K once it gets
Jeez,
paid.
bro. Yeah, going insane. All right, well, yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself. How long have you been trading? Everything like that.
My name's Simon. For anyone in the Discord watching, I know I'm pretty active in there. I go by SEL Trades. I've been trading for just a year now. Just hit a year a couple weeks ago. I became profitable in about 8 or 9 months of trading, which is a bit crazy, especially after only watching TGR and how he said it took him three years, and I didn't see myself doing the same thing because I needed to make this work, so I had to really push myself, and everyone's different, so you can't really compare yourself to someone else. But I was not perfect. I lost about $10,000 before trading.
Yeah, man.
I started September 9th, right when I turned 18. You guys were the first firm I started with. Thankfully, TGR's boot camp, he actually finished right when I started trading. My best friend, he's been with TGR for a while, and he recommended me. So shout out to Nahum. He's the one who really got me into it. And I bought a 100K account the day I turned 18. This was about 3 months into trading, maybe 2.5, and I did pass it in 3 days. So I do get to say I passed my first ever account, but I blew it the day after because I used to trade SPX and NASDAQ, and the lot sizes are different. When we were still on MetaTrader before everything happened, and I accidentally went in on a NASDAQ trade with my SPX lot size, and I blew the account probably within a second. No questions, like just instantly down. So ever since then, I've never touched anything else besides NASDAQ. So that's kind of like my horror with SPX and everything. Since then, I blew about 10 to 12 200K accounts, so I can't say I was perfect. I always went with the big accounts because what I tell my students and everyone I teach, if you're gonna pass a 6K account, you might as well get a bigger one, depending where like you are with your money, because it's all relatively the same. It's just the percentage, but people get the money stuck in their head, so they see like a big number and they're like, oh my god, this is just crazy. So it just messes with them mentally. So that's a big thing a lot of people have to overcome. And so that's what hit me. Like my head was super foggy for a while.
Yeah. So you're 19 now. You said you got your first one account when you're 18, and it was a year ago. So
I'm still 18.
Oh, dang. Bro.
So
Jeez.
I paper traded for 2 months. My birthday's in January, and so now I turn 19 in like 3-4 months from now.
That's insane, dude. So before you started trading, were you like doing anything else, working any other jobs, or was it just school?
Yeah, so I started working since I was 13, 14. I've always been making money online because I never really had the idea of wanting to go to college, and I wasn't like a dumb kid, but I wasn't the smartest, so I started, as everyone else does, drop shipping. Quarantine hit. It was exponential with everything online, so I got some money in that area. I was a lifeguard at the time, so I've always been around, like always hustling, trying to make money. And then 16 was when I got like a real job. I mean, not crazy, it was Starbucks barista. Don't recommend to anyone who's watching. Don't do it.
I've heard it's crazy.
It's horrible. But so that was for 2 years while I was doing the other stuff, and then I got big into SMMA, social media marketing. But when my friend introduced me into trading, it's it's a whole nother like idea of everything else because when I would do drop shipping and other stuff, you rely on other people purchasing your products and
Right.
what you put out. I like uh, being successful when you know it's all you because trading isn't anyone else. It's all you and yourself. So if you know you make it, you know that you did it and not anyone else. You don't have to like rely on anyone else like buying your products or doing this other stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on that too, because I was waiting to ask you that question. Like, you tried all these side hustles.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask what made you go with day trading. So you're saying more so just because it's purely on you. It's purely how
Yeah.
you act. That's what will get the job done. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's the same reason why I got into it too. I don't like that you have to rely on like a service or something like that for other businesses. So it was the same way. Something I'm curious about is, I guess I should ask first, what was the size of your first payout? And how many months into trading did you get it?
Well, I've been with a few firms now. Uh, Actually, I was up on an account with one around 43,000
Jeez.
before I blew it. I got a little greedy. It was just like my trading was going so well, so I just wanted to keep growing it, and then really messed up me mentally, and that was another downhill. But my first ever payout was 1,200, I think, and then ever since then it was like 5,000, 10,000, 13,000. Just always, I never really, I go for like 5% of the account, and then because I believe in consistency over just like big payouts because you see other people, you see these big 50, 75, 100K payouts, but you never see them again. So it just,
Exactly.
I like consistency over just like bigger numbers.
Yeah, 100%. Because then it's like the equivalent of a job. If you're able to consistently pull out a solid amount every 2 weeks or every month, that's something you can keep rocking with. But I mean, a lot of the guys just use super high leverage and get
Yeah,
their payouts
exactly.
and it ends up going away. But yeah, I mean, is there anything crazy you ever bought with your payouts before, or do you normally just like put it in the bank?
Besides more funded accounts, I mean, I did just, I'm moving out to Houston with my best friend. He's the one who also put me on to trading. We just bought a house out there, so I'm moving
Dang.
there in October, but nothing too crazy. I mean, gave some money to my parents and siblings,
Yeah.
of course, but just really been reinvesting it in myself because these accounts are not cheap, especially if
So,
you owe them a lot.
so you're a homeowner at 18 years old. Crazy, bro. That's actually insane. The payouts alone were already insane, but owning a home, bro, Jesus, that's crazy. All right, man. Well, let's talk more about, I mean, how you actually got the payouts. So, what type of concepts do you trade? Are you trading ICT, supply and demand, or like, what's your whole model?
So obviously started with SMC, Smart Money Concepts. All never watched ICT before. Everything I've learned has been from TGR. He's
Mhm.
he's like the best teacher. Like just like you two, I watch your videos. Also, you guys are very similar because it's not like I don't like ICT how they're so like just stuck up in. It's just like being able to relate to somebody, especially your teacher, makes it so much better. Like you and TGR, it's like you guys are funny and you're not just so like just just into it. But my strategy consists of fair value gaps, liquidity sweep, and but my entry model is sniper entries. So I like to bottom wick a bunch of things. My stop loss is always 20 ticks on Nasdaq, so it's very small. I use this because back then with my same strategy, my entries were always super bad,
Mm.
and so I needed to fix this. So I decided to switch to this model because then I can get stopped out with the same candle. So I knew that if I had this down and I would win a trade, that means my exact entry point was correct. So this really fixed my whole mental state and how I would trade. My favorite concept is probably 50% of a fair value gap fill, especially on Nasdaq. Especially been looking at it for a while. Um, it's a very strong point, and if you notice it a lot, it's a high confluence, especially how I trade. Uh, but a big thing for me is I never sell NASDAQ. I don't think I've sold it since July. That was to pass one of my accounts, but I don't know why, because I tell my students too, you never know when there's going to be a new all-time high. So just like last week on Wednesday, I took a long position on NASDAQ and it went up about 1,000 ticks after. So if I did hold on to it, it would have been over a six-figure trade alone. But it depends where you want to get out. But I don't like selling NASDAQ, even though it, like today, was perfect sells.
Yeah, I mean, we've been selling off a ton since all-time highs. That's crazy. I mean, I'm assuming you've been like profitable month over month the past few months, regardless. Yes, I mean, as long as it works, that's all that really matters. When you said the wick, I was kind of confused about that. What do you mean by like you enter on the wick?
Oh, so like when you see if someone trades a fair value gap, they usually like the fair value gap to get filled and then reaction up. I would have been in off the bottom of the candle already. So I don't wait for the reaction. I'm in it from the bottom because my stop loss is so tight that I can't really afford for waiting for a little retrace, because like when I started this strategy, I've been out on the trade within 5 seconds of the same candle that I join in with. So it's a lot of people don't like it because they like their trade to have breathing room, but I like being spot on because it helps me when I journal my trades alone, because if I win, that means on the exact price point that I was correct.
Yeah, and I would assume you get like a crazy risk reward too, right?
So my minimum is 5 RR, but there's been countless times like I've been up 10,000 and then I get stopped at break even.
Yeah, I mean, are you taking partials or do you fully get out of everything?
Depends on the trade. Like I've been up 20,000 in a single trade, and I trail my stop loss. I don't really take partials because I believe that if your trade isn't reversing or showing you any rejection, there's no point of selling off, because if you can ride it up, and if people are like, oh, but I want to win, that's where I tell my students just trail your stop loss if you really want the money. And but if you do start seeing some type of rejection, then it's never wrong to sell in profits, because that means you won.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. How would you describe like the mental adjustment it took to go from demo to trading on a funded account, and then going from a funded account to actual live account and getting your first payout and things like that? What was the mental adjustment for you? What was that like?
So that was a big part, because once you go funded and once you go live, like that's really life changing, because in this part, like I needed this to work. I couldn't afford for it not to work. So that's a big it's a big step, and especially after you get your first payout, anyone out there, like that's when it hits that like you really made this work and it really happened, because seeing it on the like account or it being demo versus in your bank account is it's a whole nother world, especially if you have a personal live. That's just a whole nother story. But a big thing people need to get over is not making money, it's having the skill to be able to make money. Because if you have the skill, you can be anywhere in the world, knowing you can just open your laptop, analyze the markets, and be able to just take a trade whenever, because you know you have the skill, versus someone who just makes a lot of money because he has a lot of capital.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's the basic rule of thumb. That's pretty much what I say all the time, is if you think about making money, I mean, you're realistically not going to make money.
Exactly.
It's too emotional. It's too much of an emotional game. What do you recommend people do with their first payout or like multiple payouts? Because it seems like you're handling yourself pretty well. Like, what would you recommend someone to do with their first payouts?
Definitely. So I keep a list, like a spreadsheet of all the money I've spent on accounts, just so I know, like for taxes, of course, and everything. Definitely don't just keep reinvesting in yourself, because if it's working, there's no point of spending your money somewhere else when you can. Your best investment that I tell everyone is always yourself, because you can do whatever you put your mind to. Especially like if you're down, I always say be at break even on all the money you spent, and then you can maybe start. But just always reinvest in yourself, into more accounts, maybe into a personal live. But it's never bad to treat yourself here and there. But if you blow all your money right away, then if something happens to your live account, then you're screwed. So it's always good to keep a backup pocket change.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. I mean, that's pretty much it when it comes to like the models and stuff. I guess one last question I would ask is about one-on-one funding. How would you rate your experience with one-on-one funding out of 10? And then just like a brief reason why and like the good things that you experienced.
I love one-on-one funding. I think they're the best firm that I've been with. A lot of people might think otherwise, but especially 100% payout splits, like it's amazing. The mods are great in the Discord. Arani is unbelievable. Like people don't understand like what he has to go through, like all these people messaging him and him checking all these accounts. So shout out to him. That's I definitely give it a 10. Everything's super smooth. I love the leverage. I love the dashboards. TGR, you, Adrian, you guys are all like an amazing face of a firm because it's people like seeing others who they can relate to and not just some higher ups or people like that. So anyone who's watching this, whatever anyone says bad about one-of-one, it's not true. I've been with them. I've made incredible money with them. They've always paid me out. And you guys got to understand that it's a business. Like if something happens, you're not the only one struggling. They have to go through it too. So just always keep that in your mind.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate it, and I'm glad you had a good experience. And I'm really glad you came on for the interview because this stuff is way more helpful than people realize because you're getting like a full breakdown of someone who is verified paid out. He's verified, gotten paid out multiple times, and I'm sure he's traded with other firms, but just with our firm alone, multiple 5 figures. Like there's something to learn here. So I'm glad you came on and did it, but that's about it for us. So I'm probably going to end it here. I appreciate you coming on, man.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Deuces.